Whoa! Boom! Personality turns on right now. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ketchup with Domtomato podcast. We're going to be doing a 12-episode season this week, having different athletes coming on, and we're going to be discussing, overarchingly, talking about different types of competitions we're seeing sprout up and the different ways that we can evolve the system, and also just talking on industry career tips for younger athletes who want to build their careers. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll have these 12 episodes coming out once a week for the next 12 weeks. Our first guest is the most prominent female freerunner in the industry, the best female, in my opinion, to ever grace the sport, Sydney Olson, or Faraday. Are you keeping your last name? What's the plan?
It's a good question. I've not officially changed it or anything. There's certain times that I use it when I make like a dinner reservation, but most of the time it just goes by Olson for work and all that. So it's never actually changed.
Okay, yeah, because that's one of the things with like building your own brand and career around your name, and you have like Sydney Olson is the title that you've gone by for so long and build that name with. So it's a tricky one to then be like, oh, I'm just gonna drop that and go with Faraday, even though that's the married name. Yeah.
It's really weird. Like I didn't even expect that it would feel the way it did, because I was like, oh, it's almost like a weird identity thing. Because I'm Sydney Olson. Like I don't know. And even on my when you do stunt work, you have to be part of this union, and you have to like put a name on there, and it can't change. So no matter what, it would be Sydney Olson anyway.
Yeah, on the stunt grading and everything as Sydney Olson. So interesting. And so when it comes to like documentation, do you do like a hyphenated or anything, or is it just stayed as Olson?
Just stayed, yeah.
So you're going to change his name then? Is that the plan?
No, I don't make him do that.
Yeah, no, cool. Okay, well, I'm going to start with 3 quick questions. The first one is, what is your name backwards?
Yendis. Oh God. Knowles. Noslo. No. Noslo.
Noslo.
Yendis Noslo.
That's a tricky one. Sounds like it's almost like Swedish.
No, well, my last name is actually Scandinavian already, so that's kind of funny that it would
work out that way. That's what they did when you guys migrated. Just switched the name. You're like, oh yeah, Olson. That's what it always was. I swear.
Noslo.
Noslo. And secondary, if you could have a superpower, what would that superpower be?
I think I would like the superpower to regenerate any injury.
So like invulnerability. That's so funny. That's definitely my go-to superpower as well. Is just like I'm like, I want to be able to test stuff without having to take the physical like load, like if I could do a roof gap, not make it, and then just get up and walk back up the stairs and go again.
Exactly.
So much more stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
And then thirdly, if you could show yourself one clip, like one jump you've done or one line or even one video that you've made, what would be that? Before you started parkour and freerunning, if you could show your younger self one thing, what would that be?
It would probably be that line that I did for my Art of Motion submission back in 2019. I have it like pinned on my Instagram, but I think seeing that at the beginning of my parkour journey would have just blown my mind, because I never would have expected to have a line that was that crazy.
Yeah, so, that had all those pieces of all those things put together. And I guess that's great, because then when you do show your younger self something like that, it would give such a broadened view for the younger you, like an idea of, oh, I'm not just going to be doing like, for me, I would probably show some sort of front flip clip, and then it'd be like, cool. So my journey is front flips, as opposed to like a line like that would really show you like athletically the overall skill and like determination that it takes, and then also the discipline to put it together, as opposed to just doing that one solo trick.
Yeah, exactly that. Because I was thinking of certain tricks that I've done, but I think what I like about the line is that it shows that I got a lot better at the things that I previously sucked at too.
Yeah.
So I think, So I think for me, it was like something when I first started parkour as well. And I wasn't that young. I was 17 when I started training. But when I think back to what that was like, I remember just trying a backflip on grass and being terrified. So it would have been really, really to see that.
Yeah. And it's, I think if we could get that glimpse into the future, it would be so confident building to your younger self to know that it is possible. Like, 10 years later training, you achieve things that you never would have thought were possible. And just knowing that, and I think for a lot of younger athletes that do come up, it's like, you just have to remember that patience is your best friend when you're doing these sports, and really like know that over time there will be something that you'll be able to show your younger self, or even your kids, that was something that you not only like couldn't believe that you were going to do, but worked your ass off to achieve. And it is really gratifying to kind of have that difference in progression. Like, I've seen a lot of trends online for that, where it started and where it is now, kind of thing. And I do like seeing that, just because it shows the like consistency and the direction and like the progress that there has been with the sport for so long.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really amazing because I've been training for almost 13 years now. So yeah, I know it's been a long time, but
I was a teenager.
yeah, yeah, I know. You're right. You're right. How long has it been for you?
16 this year.
Oh
So
my God. Yeah, it's so crazy. And when I look back on that journey too, and I look back at videos from like, I don't know, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, I'm still like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? But also I'm just super grateful for the drive that I had back then too. Cause like, even though I looked silly at times and like, I didn't know what I was doing, I was just really pushing through it and working really hard, and knew that it was possible, to someday like be able to get to where I'm at.
Because like, I'm sure you have that where it was like almost trying to find your style, your groove, your like strengths and weaknesses, like during that phase that you're talking about. Did you find that there were certain aspects that you tried that didn't really stick? Like, to give an example or parallel, like I was very much into Jason's like dancey, flowy style, but then I look back on that and I'm like, oh, didn't quite pull off the way that I would have liked it to. But is there anything like that for you that stood out, where you maybe went down a channel further and then realized like that's just not where my affinity lies?
Maybe I would say more of it was like when I was trying to learn flow, I was doing it differently than how I would go about it now. And I think I didn't quite understand or grasp how it works. I would like do a trick here and then I'd run all over the place and look really silly, or do some weird sort of flow. But at the same time, it's just like, I think I go through phases with my training. Sometimes I'm really like heavy into jumps, and then sometimes I'm really into just one-off tricks, and sometimes I'm really into just kind of flow and creativity. So I find that there's just different phases of that for me, and that they kind of like repeat in a cycle. And
yeah, it might not be like a definite window or a definite time period, but they kind of you'll always go through that cycle throughout your training. And that's one thing I really enjoy about watching you is the variety and the versatility in your training. There's not just like one specific style that stands out when it comes to what you do. It's very like broad in the spectrum of movement that you like tackle, and you're so athletic that it really like it just lends your hand to things when you try it. It's fucking sick to watch.
well, thank you, Dom. That's really sweet. I just think there was there was a lot of different things that I was bad at when I first started. I think when I first started training, I just didn't know the fundamentals. Honestly, I think it was probably about 3.5 years before I could Kong correctly. It might have even been more. Like,
oh wow, yeah. And
I hit my knees all the time.
I think it's for athletes to hear as well, like seeing how much skill you've brought up over the years and how much acclaim you've made for yourself within the industry, and then hearing that it was hard for you to Kong. I think, like a lot of people will have things that they really struggled with to begin with, and it's nice to hear that will eventually just shave off and polish and become part of your set of things. It's just keeping at it.
Yeah, I think right now Richard's getting into lifting, which has been a really fun thing for me to watch. And he doesn't always have the best form, but the cool thing about it is that even though he's working on it and stuff, it's one of those things that your body adapts to over time. And like you do understand how to eventually like do it correctly. And I feel like with my parkour and stuff, it's right now I'm not doing the most impressive stuff anymore, but I feel like I have this competence in my movement that developed over just several years of doing it.
And like technical experience that you can't get from knowledge only. It has to be like applied practice, and it becomes almost intuitive. It's interesting that Rich is getting into lifting as well, because I found him doing similar, like not so much like powerlifting or anything, but just going to the gym. And yeah, the form takes a while to figure out and the body to get used to. There was like a clear progression after a few weeks where suddenly I could lift a chunk more on all my exercises simply because my form was there and suddenly like was more stable.
Yeah, you're right. It's a very intuitive thing. Like eventually you just kind of learn like, hey, last time I lifted that, it sort of hurt my back. I wonder why. And like
Yeah.
then you start to make those little changes. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the same with like doing any kind of move or line in parkour. Like you just kind of over time you start to figure out what does work and what doesn't. And when I started coaching, that is when I started getting a lot better, is because I was constantly thinking about what people needed to do to improve theirs, and it made me realize like what I was doing incorrectly too.
Yeah, it's an aspect of like refreshing the mind on all of those techniques and positions. I found coming back from injury now, there's so much extra work that's gone into figuring out my body position for different flips, movements, landings. And yeah, without that teaching side of things, you don't break it down in your regular training as much. Are you teaching parkour on the side as well as doing the other like stunts and performance stuff? Is that an aspect you pursue?
So I used to teach full time at Tempest Spearning back when South Bay was a thing, and I did that up until about 2017, and then I was able to sort of make my career a lot. What is the word? I was
Well,
making more money, so
yeah,
I didn't have
yeah,
to
yeah.
coach as much. But there were certain people that I still like to coach, and those are usually like adults that are really excited to learn and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the things I actually do now that I love is I get to train actors, which is
Oh,
really cool.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Because
there's a very
film and
specific
stuff need
actor.
those skills.
Yeah. There was an actor that I trained for a Marvel film that I believe is done being shot now, and we trained together for 5 months, and it was amazing.
So
Just
sick.
so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really cool kind of personalized thing that happens with the crossover of industry. There is you get to train these people who are invested because not only do they want to learn the skills, but they have a role that entails them using it, and so they have this marker and checkpoint to work towards. That's really awesome that you get the opportunity in that way to do that.
hmm Yeah, I
And
love
that
it. I also train a lot of stunt people too that want to be able to broaden that part of
yeah,
it. You know, a lot of people, they might be good at like fights or they're good at water stuff, whatever it may be, but parkour is something, believe it or not, that is used quite a bit in stunts. So it's a great thing for
yeah,
people to learn if they're trying to get into it.
yeah. Well, that's one of the I guess things that you see in film and television is they use parkour and free running within the fight scenes, within the chase scenes, but then it's not always used correctly. And it's nice now that we're getting a bit more knowledge from the sport transferred into the industry like that. Like I've definitely seen an improvement over the last, I'd say like 3 to 5 years of how it's being used in film. I'm like, every time I see nicely, I'm like, yes, yes.
Yeah, they're good
So
at it.
that also leads me to, I guess, your year. You've been working in stunts and TV, and you've also been doing, I mean, you've won Art of Motion, and been doing SPL and all sorts of things. You're all over the spectrum. What would you say is been your best like month of be it performance or be it work related or travel? What was your favorite month of your year this year?
My favorite month was September, and the reason why is because I had a balance of everything in it.
Mm-hmm.
I had some good training that month, but I also went and hung out with Richard and Sedona for a week, and we just kind of relaxed and like had a great time there. And then I went and worked in Hawaii for 2 weeks, and
Whoa.
I just hadn't had like an ability to do all of it, and it just felt really balanced. And that's kind of what I like to see in life, because I'm not one of those people that loves to work all the time, but I also don't like sitting around either. So it's just kind of like
Yeah,
finding a
fun.
balance. And I think,
Yin and yang for it. That's so
yeah.
cool. And what would you say was your favorite trip if it was just like an isolated trip as opposed to the month itself? What was like a good either location that you enjoyed being at or like just for the trip itself? What was your favorite trip?
I think it was when we went to Redbull Motion this year in Estapalia.
Triple
I
L.
was
Uh,
traveling for the month up to that. I had been like all over Europe at that point, but that was, I really liked the island. First of all, it was just very I don't know, the energy there was really amazing. Like people were just so calm and chill. I didn't feel like we were doing a competition. And I just got to see everybody that I loved and we got to compete and it was just the best time. I had so much fun.
Yeah, I had a very, very good time in this year's Art of Motion, like from atmosphere to the new location to just the people involved. It felt very tight knit, which was unfortunate we didn't get the larger spectator side of things, but the silver lining of that was that the group became like we were quite close and we all were quite tight knit. It didn't get as spread out as it had been in previous competitions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you find that this year, like if you were to stack this up against other years, how would you put this year in evaluation? Is it like a peak year for athletic performance, or is it like a year that you wanted to move past already and work towards? What's your evaluation if you're looking back?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because this year in general, I thought I was kind of on my way out with free running, and I always think that it's like, you know,
You got
my
the
job.
complex.
Sorry, say it again.
The Anwar complex. He's been retiring for like 6 years.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, I've got so many things on my plate right now. And obviously, stunts takes up a lot of time. And I've been doing mostly that this year. But I did have time to go travel in Europe and all that. And I was like, yeah, I'll use this month to get ready for Art of Motion. And my confidence for some reason was there, but my skill level I just didn't feel like was there the entire time. Like I didn't really get a whole lot of time to train on that travel. I thought I
I feel
would,
like
but it
when
rained.
you're on the road, it goes out the window.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't. Yeah, we didn't train much at all, and it was constantly raining too, and there wasn't gyms everywhere that we went. So I
Mm.
just, yeah, I wasn't up for it most of the time. So I really didn't expect to go into Art of Motion and win. Like that wasn't at all what I thought. But
Yeah,
it
yeah,
just ended up being this perfect place to like remember that I'm very strong and able to do this. And
yeah.
so
And you
it was great. Yeah, like I think in comparison to previous year, I definitely did a lot better this year in terms of that competition alone. NAPC, I didn't do as well as I had done in like 2019, but I
Mhm.
feel like I'm actually stronger than I was those years. I have more injuries this time around, so it's kind of
Yeah,
harder. Yeah.
battling that old chestnut. I think like I don't feel like it's probably personal bias being always been injured as well this year, but I feel like we've had quite a few athletes across the professional board that have been injured for a big portion of the year, and it's
Yeah.
I mean the name of the game when all of us are doing the sport, and you've also then got not only the competitions, but then you've got stunt jobs to remain healthy for, and it becomes
Mm-hmm.
more of a balancing act. Did you find that you were still able to like perform all through your stunt jobs and stuff, even though you were training? Did everything worked out in that sense, or was there any injuries that stopped you?
I would say the last half of this year, like after August, I developed Achilles tendonitis
Oh,
from SPL. I
mm,
did one too many inward fronts, and I remember waking up the next day and I was like, "Oh, my heel is really hurting." And I didn't think much of it, but it still was scary because someone had just got done telling me that, like, "Oh, my Achilles tore when my heel started hurting," and that really scared me.
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I got
Puts,
into my head about it. And so when I got back, honestly, I started taking it really easy, and I'm still dealing with it 4 months later, which is really scary. But
mhm.
um, I just go to the physio as often as I can, and I get it looked at. And my work schedule, it was so crazy. After NAPC, it just started blowing up. I worked constantly for the rest of the year, and I was every day I was scared I was going to tear my
Yeah, because yeah, you've got the extra pressure of having to perform, and it's just overarching in the back of your mind there that whole time.
Mhm. It is getting better though, but I would say no for the last like half of the year. I haven't really been even training much at all. I feel like my job was kind of keeping me focused on that part of it because it's like if you get hurt outside of work, then you're screwed. It makes you look really bad, and like no one's gonna
Yeah,
want to hire you again. And,
yeah.
yeah, it's just it's
It's
one
a
of those
different
things. But
world with stunts to parkour in that realm. Like when you're doing, I think commercial shoots, video shoots with parkour. Like when I was doing some of the Redbull shoots, I've had to move them around due to injury, and it's usually more of the understood because you're working in that spectrum every day, and then the like that inherently comes with the field. But when it's stunts, like they don't have the budget or the time to switch those things around. So it's very much you have to be set for that day, otherwise you won't work. Like,
Yeah, no,
and if you're unreliable, then you're not going to get those jobs coming through.
yeah, definitely. I've also, but like in the time with that going on, it's not like I kind of gave up everything else. I also have been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu a lot more. I find it actually way less impact on the body, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, it's still very much force being applied through, but I guess it's not like plyometric or like gravitational force coming down. It's just somebody else wrestling.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you're going to be competing next year, do you think? Do you think you'll move into yeah, like continue 2023, come back?
I don't know. I'm joining the 30 club at the beginning of the year, which is exciting.
Well,
Yeah, that is the
30,
question. I have no idea whether or not I want to compete or not this year. I think I just need to play it by ear and see how things are going with my
Yep.
body and all that. And I have no idea what's going to happen with work and all this, but there's some pretty cool jobs that I have coming up that I'm excited about and can't say much about. But yeah, we'll just kind of see what happens.
Yeah, because I mean, like we have started changing the system somewhat from what it's been for a long time. Did you find that this year's Art of Motion system with the 3-day split, more focused on media, was more enjoyable for you as an athlete, or was it something that was more stressful?
It was way more enjoyable for me as an athlete. I really enjoyed that, it being split up over the 3 days. I felt like you didn't really get away from that pressure much. I felt like I didn't actually eat much that entire weekend, and I noticed it. I looked back and I had lost so much weight like so quickly.
Drank a lot of beer. That's what I did.
Did you? Yeah, that's
So hard
crazy.
beer diet.
No, I basically like lived off of Greek salads and those like Fredo espressos. Like I was just,
Oh,
that was
yeah,
it was
yeah.
bad. But I think that I really did enjoy the different challenges that we had. The exploration challenge, just going out and filming with friends, like that was really cool and relaxed, and again, didn't feel like a competition at all. And then the spot challenge was my favorite because it was just going out and doing what you do best as an athlete. Like you know how to put together good lines and stuff. And I got to work with Jesse, which was like old time's sake for us.
Yeah.
So
Nostalgia, like nostalgia hour for sure.
yeah. And then the live round ended up being kind of my favorite, especially because we got 3 chances this year. That took a lot of pressure off.
Yeah. I think that's again something as well that's more true to how we train, how the sport is that, and that's something I don't know much about the FIG competitions, but I've heard that they have a redo
Do
system.
they?
I know for speed, I'm not sure for style, but apparently if you can like if you cock up in speed, you can like reset and restart straight like within like the next minute or whatever it is.
What? I did not know
Which
that.
I think like there is like new systems being put in place that are more strategic and like good for how the sport looks. But I just don't know enough about like the FIG ones to really weigh my thumb on the scale. I'd have to get someone who's actually competing in them
Yeah,
to
same.
divulge. But for as far as Art of Motion, I personally again, really enjoyed that dynamic of being able to like train with your friends. And I feel like if they were to repeat that now, they're like anything else, it's like I would be able to know the judging system, what the expectations were a bit better, and be able to cater towards that, and actually, potentially like look at being competitive in it, as opposed to like last year where it was like I'm going to do everything anti what the system is.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff you did though, like, was so gnarly.
But we all got awards at the end, so that's perfect. You can just kind of like play into your strengths and do what you want to do, and we're all going to get a reward at the end. So I did enjoy that peer voted, because a lot of people didn't realize that we did get like peer awards, which was like where all the athletes voted for 7 or 8 different awards, and then they were awarded at the dinner, at the after party.
Yeah, and you got hardest hit, of course, right?
Biggest send, I think, was
biggest send, right? That's what it was. Yeah.
And then so like such just a really friendly atmosphere, and it really brought that unity together for that morning competition. And one thing I also went to was the Star Street Big Wall Open. Have you been to any of the street competitions like the Kipper through or anything like that?
I'd been to that one that was in Eindhoven, On the Spot. I'd been to that one.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's a huge leap forwards and a very positive thing for the sport is to have these kind of outdoor competitions that are maybe not like exactly the same for everything. Like having the big wall open be different to this the spot comp that Own the Spot does and that sort of thing, I think is a nice variation and variety. And I'd love to see more of those different types popping up. Is there any type of competition that you would have like a preference towards or like even an idea for?
Well, Kings of the Concrete last year. I know that nobody's seen it yet, but that is coming out very soon.
That's so
Um,
funny because that's definitely on my list of things is what the hell is going on with that? Where is
it's
my
so,
Kings of Concrete?
I know, it's coming out so soon. I actually get to watch it this weekend. I'm very excited.
Woo!
Um, but that competition, the way it was run, I judged it this year. I didn't compete or anything, but it was, I think, my favorite competition that I've ever been involved in the sport, and I wasn't even competing. And
That's sick.
I think just this head-to-head style battle, which isn't a new thing, like people have done that before.
Yeah, we did that one year at AOM and
Yeah,
we
yeah. NAPC's done
decided.
it. Yeah, but kind of the way it ended up working out with this winner takes all of $10,000, it was really, really crazy to just sort of see these people go head to head, and they were really fighting for it, and it made it very easily digestible for the audience too. Like
Yeah,
people that don't know parkour at all have a deep understanding of like whose line was better. It's kind of generally pretty obvious.
yeah,
And you have to worry
It's not
about who won.
nuanced like that. Mm.
Yeah, so we had a bunch of really cool people watching it, like stunt coordinators were there and stuff too, and they were just kind of watching, and like not everyone knows about parkour, but they were like, oh, I feel like this guy did better. It just, I wasn't surprised by any of the results. I was like, oh yeah, that like 100% makes sense, but you could also argue for the other athlete. It is very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. There's always like a preference versus a more like objective outlook on things where you're like you can realistically kind of digest in plays as opposed to like, oh, but I really liked his line, or I really
Yeah,
liked that he did that part there. You know, I mean, like
yeah,
there's those little things that are always going to be personal preference, and that's what's so hard about judging parkour and figure in general, and why I think the answer to the judging system is not to have right now one staple judging system. I think that's where we all tried to uniform over the years, and then it became that competition style. And so it's nice now, I think, having different events that have different judging systems and different criteria. And then once we have more of those, then everyone can kind of start to decide what would be the more common or the more staple one. Because we just don't, in my mind, have like a tried and true system yet. I don't know
yeah.
if that's the same, but I just, yeah, don't think it's,
We
I don't think
don't.
that I have kinks.
Yeah, we don't, and it's honestly, I mean, parkour is so subjective. Like you could look at two people's lines and love different things about them, and that's amazing. But I guess what I liked about Kings of the Concrete is that when I was judging it, I had a whiteboard. I'd watch two runs and I decide then and there like what felt better. And a lot of times it was actually a gut feeling. Like it wasn't like
Yeah.
sitting there like logically thinking about what it was.
I
It was
think,
just like, yeah, this person, you know.
yeah. And do you think that's like, I mean, if you are doing a versus thing, it's something that you need less specificity for? Like if you have all these breakdowns and all these points, that it becomes less like what you said, just a gut instinct. Do you think that that is something that is easier not only on the judges but the athletes as well?
It can be definitely because it means that if you didn't like completely or what is the word, like if you fucked up a certain category but you have like all these other ones that you did really well, like you might be able to save yourself in that way. But
Yeah.
the point is each judge is sitting there judging overall impression, so it's a mixture of everything that goes on, so you want like
And that
all
way
of
you
the
can't finagle a point system. Yeah, you can't like
yeah,
wrangle points and stack up points and then still compete even though your run wasn't better.
yeah. But at the same time, I have no idea what actually makes the best judging because you don't necessarily want like a cookie cutter run. Like you don't want to take away the special parts of the sport because what I'd hate for the idea is like, and this is just my personal opinion about like Fig coming in and stuff is that like I had a gymnastics background. I competed in gymnastics and I know what that's like. And the last thing that I want for parkour is for people coming in and being like, oh, this skill is worth this amount of points and this is worth this amount.
Yeah.
It doesn't
And because
work for us.
that doesn't work for us because think about it. A cast back for you is easier than it is for me. Like each skill is like very different for the individual.
Yeah.
The body makes it very different. Like look at how easy Travis can congainer. Do you
Yeah.
think either of us have
No.
that? What? So he's gonna get like the world of points more like in a system, and that's going to be awarded specific points for someone that he can do like a side flip. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't be
Yeah.
a relatable ratio because not everyone has the same skills. And yeah, it is hard with the gymnastic system from what I've seen to label everything and to give rigidity and rules to something that's called free running. It doesn't,
Yeah,
it
exactly.
doesn't have that. It's like, wait, there's a logical paradox happening here.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like career building and stuff, the three quick things I was going to run over is your thoughts on having management versus not having management. Because a lot of the athletes that I know, like myself, are very self-managed, freelance, doing a lot of the communication, invoicing work from their own end. But then I also know, and I'm sure with Stunts, you have management that works with you, and that way it kind of enables more jobs, activates more opportunity. What would your opinion be for
So it's
management?
interesting because most of my stuff is actually self-managed. I do have a commercial agent, so a lot of times her job is to get me in the room for an audition that I wouldn't be able to get without her. So yeah, she goes in, puts me in the audition room, and then I audition. And if I get the job, I get the reward, and then she gets 20% added on. So
Okay,
it's nice because she never has to take anything from me,
from that.
which is really cool. And I think if you're going to have an agency, you want to be careful with what percentage they're trying to take out of your pay and all this. And
Sure.
if you have a good agent, they should be able to add it on usually. But yeah, for me, most of my jobs actually come through word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So in stunts, especially, like you do a job for a coordinator, it goes well. Someone's like, "Hey, I need a 5'2" girl that can do this," and they're like, "Hey, Sydney worked for me last week. She was great." So then they put in that recommendation and all that. And then as far as like influencer type jobs, all of that is managed by me, based off of like what I think I deserve for these jobs and all this. And yeah, honestly, I enjoy the process of self management. It's a lot of work to understand. I feel like you have a lot of trial and error.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. And I feel like I've definitely gotten paid really shit for jobs in the past, but now I understand exactly what to ask for based off of what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Would you say
it's
also
definitely
like having the experience doing the stunt jobs in that world gave you more frame of reference for what like the physical arts and the production qualities and those sorts of things are paid for on those scales?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that helps a lot, but it is a different time though with influencer agreements and all that. You suddenly see these people come in trying to make a commercial, but it's not really a commercial anymore. They're paying like an influencer to, like
Yeah, they're paying an influencer to make that commercial without the production team, without the
yeah.
red, without all the different things. Yeah.
And the good side to this is that it's way, way, way cheaper for them than to actually hire a production company and all that. So you actually have more capability to make more money than you think.
Yeah,
I think
more
that's the biggest
bargaining
thing
push
that,
power than you think.
yeah, people don't seem to understand that. And there are people that might try and undercut you and be like,
That's
yeah,
business in general. They're
it
always
is
going
business. Yeah,
to.
and yeah, there might be someone out there that can do it for cheaper and whatever, but like the quality is what you're looking for, and eventually you just kind of have to like figure out what your niche is and know your worth there. And
Mhm.
then if you don't want to do something for lower than a certain amount of money, just say no.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. I think
that's
that's
when
a
you're
hard
blind.
one for people
Yeah.
is that if your livelihood, your income, your base is coming from these jobs, and the necessity of the job being done is higher than what you think you deserve financially, a lot of people will fold. And I think it's really important to try and have a base consistency that comes from something separate to these freelance jobs. Like when I was starting, I was getting paid $210 Australian a week from Apes as a gym, and that literally just covered my rent, and then like I think it was like $30 or $40 extra for food per
Mm,
week. That's all I covered, and then the rest of the freelance work then wasn't as threatening or as like serious because uh, I knew that at least I could live and eat, worst case scenario, and that way I could really respect my own position and where I was in the career and charge those rates. So what, if anything, is there a good piece of advice you were given along like business building or career building, like just a little snippet or something that somebody gave to you along the way that stood out? And it can be simple, it can be complex, it doesn't have to be. And even if there's nothing, I just think that it's nice to pass on those little tidbits from time to time.
Yeah, I remember Lucy gave me this advice when I first started out working, and she told me that it is someone's job to try and get you out of pay, or what was I going to say? She said it is someone's job to try and undercut you and take out money from what you deserve, and it's really important to pay attention to that. And at first, that sounds like a really scary thing to deal with, but I have learned that lesson many times in my career. When I first started, there was this, excuse me, there was this national commercial that I did, and it was my first ever job like that. So they offered to pay me, I think it was $500 and then a $1,000 buyout fee. And I didn't know anything, and I was so new, and I was like, yeah, awesome. Well, that commercial still plays 8.5 years later.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
I know. So I could have made a lot of money off of that.
No continued payouts, or it's just the 1,000 is the.
Actually, I've gotten continued payouts from them. I got my agent involved with that, so that was kind of helpful.
I did with my Nutrigrain commercial, is I didn't realize they were sending me the payments, but then slowly depleting the amount. They'd be like, "Oh, we'll send you 7. Oh, why don't we send you 5 this time?" And I went to my agent. She's like, "They need to be sending you 8 plus every time." That was the fee for the job. I was like, "Oh." I need to be, oh, sorry. Yep. Like, just that's why, like, I do think it's important to have an agent or a manager at least on side as a reference point, as someone who can rally for you, because it is very difficult to stand up for yourself in those business situations and put yourself forwards and say, I deserve this, without feeling like you're being a little bit of a diva or a little bit demanding. But that's the reality of it. And, anybody that's listening, I think if you are worried about what you're charging or what your fees are, or you're not confident in those, talk to some of the professional athletes in the industry, see what they're saying. Most people are pretty open, especially if you're willing to just keep that stuff between yourselves. Then you can really get a good frame of reference to what the expectation is and what the also kind of deliverables are from companies. If that's, people's charging exorbitant rates aren't getting paid, or if they're charging lower rates and getting paid too little. So it's just good to get a frame of reference from your peers and your community.
I completely agree. I feel like it's one of those things, when you get into this, you do not know that you need a business degree. Like, you don't know. Yeah. And eventually you go on to be making all these like hardcore business decisions, and you're like, what the hell? I was not prepared for this. And so, yeah, if you ever any questions, I'm always down to talk about it. Like, I'm pretty open with it. It's just one of those things. You need to consult in other people. I still do all the time. I always talk to Gabe. I talk to Lucy. Anyone that has been in that position before. I think Jesse worked with the military one time, and I was working with them, like, hey, what did you get paid for this? And he tells me, and then I end up getting more, which is awesome.
That's exactly it, though, is you do, without that, then you're kind of wandering blind. And I think a lot of us are a little, I know I am, I'm a little like hesitant to ask about finance or to like push for finance stuff, because I just feel disingenuous. Is not how I'm wired. But at the end of the day, it is something that, as parkour athletes who are creating industry and, trying to create positions in the sport that have a future, you do need to kind of be a bit more frivolous and strong with your opinions when it comes to the financial side of things. But yeah. So that's pretty much all we have for today on the agenda. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on before we left, Sid?
No, I think I'm good. It was just so good to get to catch up with you.
Yeah. I always love just an excuse of doing a podcast so I can chat with my friend for an hour. It's always the blow up of that. So if you want to check out Sydney, you can find her on YouTube. You can find her on Instagram. Is there any other places that we can look for you online?
Yeah, I just recently started a podcast as well. It's called Collecting Scars, if you guys ever want to listen to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that on Spotify and Apple and all that?
Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I think that's pretty much it. I don't know everything about it yet. I'm still like trying to handle it by myself.
Yeah. This is our third attempt / first real season of it. So it does take a few to just get that comfort and understanding of like, what am I doing on this podcast and how am I going to like position this?
Yes.
And that I wanted to thank everybody here for listening. Our next guest is going to be Callum Powell from Stora, so very exciting. Before you go, also, do you have a New Year's resolution?
Oh, a New Year's resolution. I'm not the biggest fan of those. I constantly am recreating like
Yeah.
goals, things in my head. Currently, it's actually a financial one. I hit my financial goal that I had for this year, but yeah, I really want to buy a house and be able to do it in LA if I wanted to. I can buy a house most places in America. I can't do it in LA, so I would love to be able to do that within the next year or two.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's something now for me as I hit the 30 club, it's putting more finance away and really trying to work towards those bigger family house goals and that sort of thing as well. So
yeah,
I'll race you.
awesome. Yeah, I mean, I don't care who wins. I'll be stoked.
As long as one of us has, as long as we have houses, perfect.
Yeah, that's so sick. Okay.
All right, guys. Well, again, thank you everyone for listening and tuning in. Sydney, thank you so much for being a part of today's show, and I will see you all next week.
Bye.